Hello and welcome to this webinar video on writing a personal statement for modern languages degrees in particular. My name's Dr. Sophie Hayward and I'm an Associate Professor in French here at the University of Reading in the Department of Languages and Cultures, and I'm also the Director of Admissions for the Department of Languages and Cultures, and I've been doing this role for quite a long time. And in this role, I've read a lot of personal statements. So I'm here today to chat to you all about writing those, giving you a few insights into what they're like. So hello to those of you who joined today live, but also I'm aware this is going to be recorded and sent out to people who couldn't make it. So hello to you joining us later on. In brief, this should take no more than half an hour, perhaps a little bit less. And what we're going to do in this session is talk about, as I said, talk about personal statements in modern languages. The first thing I'm going to do is, broadly introduce, what is a personal statement, why you produce them, and also how we use them here in universities and who might be reading them. And then I'll sort of talk you through how to structure it a little bit, give you tips, or mostly I'll also give you pointers as to where to look to get that kind of information. And then really this is going to be from a session from my perspective as an admissions tutor in languages, to try and give you a more tailored kind of perspective on what we in languages look for, the kind of things, questions you want to be asking yourself, examples you might be thinking of giving, what to do, and I'll be trying to give examples of really good practice, personal kind of the sorts of things that I've seen in personal statements and I found worked really well, or the kind of approach that I think can work really well. Then I'll just talk you through writing tips and kind of a bit do's and don'ts, but mostly do's rather than don'ts. And then last but not least, at the end, there'll be plenty of time for questions. If you have any questions whatsoever, any concerns, is your moment. And it can be about personal statements, but also about degrees at university in modern languages generally. I should just say that this, as I've said before, this session is being recorded, but we'll be very happy to kind of edit out the Q&A session at the end. So if there's anything in particular you want to ask, don't worry about it being recorded. We won't upload that, share that with others. Okay, so first of all, then, what is the personal statement? So in your UCAS application, as I'm sure you're all aware, you put in all sorts of information about your education, your qualifications, schools you went to and so forth, who you are. But the personal statement is a very short piece of writing. It's just 4,000 characters, which sounds long but isn't, and it's where you talk to us. We actually hear your voice. We read a piece of writing by you where you talk to us about why it is you want to do this degree and why you think you'd be so great at it, why we should let you onto our course. So it is really a chance to make your application unique to you. I would say in particular unique, but unique to you. It's where you are talking to us as an applicant. They're useful because lots and lots of candidates are applying for this same course with the same grades as you. Grades count massively, but here is that extra bit of the application form where we get to really sort of understand you, get a sense of who you are and what you're doing, and hear you. And so it is your chance to really stand out. And in particular, I think, tailor it to you, make it a personal part of the application, and really, I think, show us why you want to do your subject. Talk about it with that. I'm going to use the word passion a lot, so I apologise, but it is important. This is really where you kind of show how much it is you want to do this course and why, and how it's showing also how you understand what the course is all about, and so talking to us about why you'd be great at it. So who reads it? Well, the central admissions team will do so. But in particular, it's read by admissions tutors. It can really help us in our decision-making process, particularly if there's a borderline, any kind of dropped grades, or if we're having to sort of choose, make sure, think of numbers and so forth. So it can be a decisive piece of writing as well, without wanting to stress you out. I've read oodles and oodles, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these things, and generally it's the most enjoyable part of reading the application. I really like them, and it's really, generally speaking, I'm very I find it an interesting and part of the application. So don't be worried by it, enjoy it. This is your chance to talk to us. So it's read by admissions tutors. Also, here at the University of Reading, we, in our Department of Languages and Cultures, we like to get to know our applicants. We really want to see who is applying to us, what's going on. So we read all of them. A team of colleagues, we sit down, we share them out, and we read through them. So it's not wasted work. And we will then write to the applicants. So it's actually a really great way of establishing a kind of a rapport, a dialogue with the department, with the people, the universities that you're applying to. So first of all, the first thing that I would say is that the UCAS website has a really fantastic guide on how to write, the sort of the structure, the big questions to be answering, how to structure it. So this is just a little bit of a kind of a reminder and a prompt to you to go and have a little look at the UCAS website for the really good guide to what needs to go into a personal statement. But there is a broad structure that they follow. And the first bit is you're introducing yourself, and this is where you show your motivation. Why have you chosen this subject? That's your kind of punchy opener. Why do you want to do this? Then what you do in the paragraphs that follow, and this is a piece of writing, so you can show that you can structure a piece of writing with an introduction and then with separate paragraphs. In the main bit, talk to us about, you're expanding it, you're showing how you're prepared for this course. So it's not just that you really want to do this course, but you kind of understand the course. You know that you're going to do, this is something you're really going to do well at, that you're excited to devote 3 to 4 years of your life to. So talk to us about your studies. How has your learning thus far helped you to be prepared for your course? You want to talk to us about your experience beyond your studies. What else have you done to prepare? And how, again, relate that to the course. Show us how and why these experiences are so useful. And weave in talking about your achievements and your skills, your experiences. Examples here as to why you think, evidence, show us that you would be really great for the course. And there you can add in things like hobbies, work experience, volunteering, sports, all kinds of different elements there will help us to really understand how it is that you are going to be such a good fit. Conclude, always conclude. Again, it's about structuring. This is a lovely piece of writing that I'm going to be reading. So structure it with a conclusion, summarize why you think you're a great fit for this course. Show us that you really understand what this course is about and why you're going to be so great at it. But again, go and look at the UCAS website for the sort of general tips. What I'm now going to do is, is give my perspective as somebody who has read a lot of admission personal statements, and in particular the modern languages perspective. So what you really want to be specifically thinking in answering those questions as a modern languages applicant. So above all, and think about that opening statement, why it is you're really excited about it. We really want to see your motivation and enthusiasm for this subject. And I would say it's interesting on the UCAS website, and this really chimes with my experience as an admissions tutor. You've got two things going on. You're talking in very kind of practical terms about your experience, your concrete kind of your studies, your swimming certificates, that kind of thing. But there is a kind of a human side to this story and an emotional side. You want to spend, in a modern languages degree, it's 4 years pretty much normally. So 4 years of your life devoted to studying this subject in depth. So I really want to hear the human side. I love reading about why, all the various reasons that bring students to be interested in doing a languages degree. That's really lovely and really important. So there can be all sorts of different ways in which you tell me that story. It is completely reasonable to have just really loved it at school and to just want to take it further. Talk to me about what it is you've really loved about it at school, why you think it's so important. Or it can be things like you've got a family connection or some kind of passion, some kind of interest in, say, I don't know, I've read ones where people have talked to me about their absolute fascination for international politics, and that they know and they really understand that actually having a language as well, or really focusing on languages, can help them to really deepen and expand that interest. I've read some really, really interesting ones where people have talked about family connections abroad, ancestry, or perhaps having visited other countries, and that has really sparked an enthusiasm and excitement. The second point is I really, really want to see how students have engaged with their studies. Why, what it is about they've learnt at school that has brought them to think that this subject is the one they want to do at university. I'm a university lecturer, I'm an educator, and I'm a geek. It means that I absolutely love hearing stories. I love to hear and see how an applicant has really, really engaged with their studies. That makes me very happy. That also makes me think they're going to be teachable. It makes me think this person is going to get a lot out of a university degree. So it makes me think, yes, this is a great application, because I can see that this person is really engaged with their studies, really enjoying them, getting a lot out of them already. And so we're going to be able to then at university really ensure that they make the most and do their best at university. So I love to read about ways in which students have enjoyed what they're doing in their A-levels. But I'm also, as you can see there, I want to see where you've gone beyond, not just sort of on top of, I really loved watching, I don't know, Pan's Labyrinth or something at school. Wonderful. That got me really interested in the work of the particular director or the Spanish Civil War. And so I really love reading about how students have then kind of taken that further, gone beyond. So it can be, I always really, really enjoy seeing people kind of bouncing off ideas that they've learned at school and taken them further, done more research, or perhaps watched more films, or read a book, or gone to a public talk, maybe engaged in a webinar, or read a magazine. All kinds of different ways in which you can show me you've kind of bounced off and got excited by your studies. But it can also be, if you're really, really fascinated by languages, for example, talk to me about how you've used them elsewhere. I've read lovely personal statements where people have talked about, Saturday jobs, working in a hotel where they've used their languages, or sorry, I'm just remembering that personal statement. Or ways in which perhaps they've learned languages on Duolingo and been thinking about how you learn languages and really kind of engaging with that. So there's all sorts of ways in which you can talk to me about what you're enjoying studying, and then how you've kind of gone beyond that. And in particular, use examples, give examples, talk to me about a magazine you've read, perhaps you're learning German and at your school library or something, or online, you've done some extra research. What magazines have you been reading? What newspapers have you been reading, or blogs, or you know, what is the material that you're kind of engaging with? You know, be concrete, give examples. That really gives me something to kind of engage with and be interested in. And above all, you know, you're talking to me about yourself. You're talking to me, be authentic, use your examples, talk about your studies, and how you have engaged with them, and all the kind of things that have brought you to here. Then in terms of kind of the sort of skills that we're interested in, I think particularly for languages, we are really looking for students who understand what learning a language is kind of requires of them. So again, you know, I've read great personal statements with people talking about Duolingo, or kind of what they've been doing, how they've been practicing speaking through Saturday jobs, or volunteering in schools, or just through friends who speak different languages at school, in their class, or amongst their friendship group. All kinds of different ways in which you can show me that you're really engaging with language learning. But to learn a language, to become fluent, you know, one day you could be living abroad, working abroad, or writing, working in that language. You're going to need to be constantly working on it. It's like a muscle. It's something that you really need to be practicing. So we are particularly interested. I think everyone will say you want to show how you're self-motivated, how you're good at independent work. But I think it is really key for languages in particular, because they do really require that kind of constant practice. So it's really good to show, I think, particularly that you understand. Talk to us about how you understand the way you have been learning that language and what you've been up to. And then last but not least, some of you might be applying to do pick up a new language, or learn a language from beginners or intermediate. So you might not be studying the language you're applying for at A level. We're very used to this. It's completely normal. And you know, here at Reading, we offer languages from beginners, intermediate, and advanced level. So it's completely normal. We're very used to seeing this. So don't worry if you can't say, oh, I've been enjoying reading this particular novel in my A-level class, if you're not doing the A-level. What instead I really want to see is how, you know, what has brought you here, and give us a sense of an understanding, a sense that you understand what learning a language involves. So, or perhaps you've learnt another language, or you speak another language at home, or you've had contact with language learning, multilingualism in some way, shape or form. Talk to me about that. So talk to me about the studies that you're doing currently and how they're going to be giving you skills that you think you need. And then why you're really interested in picking up a language from beginners. I've read some absolutely lovely ones, lovely statements with people really explaining to me why they think it's important to be picking up a language from beginners, and how they understand, perhaps they've watched some films on streaming services, or kind of engaged through culture, sort of, I don't know, manga in other languages and cultures, really kind of anything that shows me that they really kind of are engaging with it, and that there is passion there. And then last but not least, lots of you, I think, will be applying for joint degrees, so a degree with a language and another subject. So don't worry. Again, you can write I've seen some wonderful personal statements talking about this. What you want to be doing is showing how those two subjects link together. Why do you want to study them together, and how you think studying them together is going to work? You know, what brings you to these two subjects? So there's all sorts of ways of doing this. Languages and business, for example, I read lots and lots of lovely ones there where people are talking about how they know that business is international, that they'll be working with other markets, that they'll be perhaps working with companies based in other countries. And so having another language is really important and will help them to kind of engage with with those clients or other markets. Often maybe talking to me about how they've been reading The Economist or are interested in business practices in other countries or kind of the global market. There's all kinds of ways where you can show an understanding of how business, for example, is international, and so having a language there is going to really help. Economics, it's the same, and get all sorts of interesting discussions about globalization, the economy being global, global inequalities, all kinds of interesting stuff there. Literature, comparing different literatures, different perspectives. History, I read a wonderful one, which I still remember 5 years on, which tells you something, but just somebody who's really passionate about German history. So they were talking to me about German and history and how that was going to make a they were just really excited about doing a degree where they would be able to study German history or German and history. It was lovely. And so just showing, I think, throughout that you are, why it is you want to study them together. Then last but not least, there are transferable skills, I think, particularly for languages that I would highlight or kind of maybe be thinking about. There are kind of all these general ones about time management, independence, self-motivation, ability to work as a team, and critical analysis skills. The one I mentioned before, that kind of independence and self-motivation, I think those are really key. But remembering also that a languages degree is also a humanities degree. You'll be writing essays, you'll be reading books or watching films or studying history and politics of another culture, in another language. So showing us as well that you're aware of that and that you've got those kind of key critical analysis skills, essay writing skills is also quite helpful. I would just round up there by saying that is my perspective, and you can kind of see that I actually enjoy. I hope you've got a sense that I enjoy reading personal statements and that I really like engaging with them and hearing from our applicants. So this isn't meant to be prescriptive. You don't feel like you have to go away and write the perfect personal statement to kind of fit my lists, but just to give you a bit of a sense, I think, of thinking about the specific degree and showing just really how you fit it and how excited you are about that. So to do that, I would just say writing tips, and these apply to any personal statements, but there's a couple specific ones to modern languages, is really, first of all, giving yourself time to think it through. Giving yourself time, walking around with a notebook or whatever, just pondering, thinking to yourself, why is it that I want to study this language? What motivates me? And so can I think of examples? Can I think of what it is that jot down some ideas about, what it is you want, why you want to do this subject? Maybe write down stuff like, what have you really enjoyed? What do you remember? What has really stuck in your mind? Again, thinking of examples. I think this thinking through process, this sort of note taking, jotting all your ideas down, is a really vital part of it. 'Cause it's a short piece of writing. You've got a lot to pack in. So really kind of honing those, coming to distilling to a nice list, those sort of examples that you can draw upon are really important. What have you enjoyed? What are you good at? Where have you achieved with languages? And what is really drawing you to them? Above all, this is a piece of writing. You're applying to a degree. Read it through really carefully. Once you've written it out, write it out again, read it again, draft it through carefully, but really check for spelling mistakes, and make sure it's carefully structured. And particularly for languages, you'll be quoting, you'll be using titles of books or magazines or podcasts or whatever, or films in the language, I would have thought. Make sure that you spelt them correctly, and missing accents. Computers are evil in that they will correct your language and will remove accents, for example. Just make sure that they're not missing. That's, I think, really important. And then once you've done that, get somebody else to read it for you as well. Get someone to double check it. I think teachers do that. But if not, friends, someone in your family, caregiver, someone who can just bring a fresh pair of eyes to it, really important. Generally speaking, I'm not a fan of saying don't do this, but there are a couple of things to avoid in personal statements. Above all, plagiarism. Don't cut and paste from websites or anything like that. This has to be authentic and we want to hear from you. So that's really, really key. No cutting and pasting. Avoid mentioning specific universities because you're applying to different universities. This is a general personal statement about a degree, so don't mention specific universities, and keep it positive, keep it upbeat. This is your chance to tell us how great you are. Okay, so avoid, try to be positive rather than negative, and humor and sarcasm don't tend to work in this format. It's not really the place for it. But above all, it needs to be your own work, needs to be your own words, and it's positive, upbeat. You're talking about why you're the person for this degree. Okay, so at this point, I hope that was clear. I hope that was helpful. I am easily reachable. So for those of you who are watching the recording afterwards, if you have any questions whatsoever, here are our contact details, but particularly if you contact us on languages@reading.ac.uk email address, that comes through to me directly, and I am always delighted to answer questions about the personal statement or anything relating to our modern languages degrees here at the University of Reading. You can keep up to date with what we're up to via our Twitter and Instagram and Facebook accounts as well. But if you have any questions, do just get in contact with us. So thank you. And for our, oh, good. That's nice to hear. That's lovely. Are there any specific questions that you have right now? It's recording, but we'll edit this bit out. It's mainly sort of going out as a video to people who can't join us live. But this is your chance. I'm here. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. So just pop them into the chat if you have any. Or, of course, just email me later. I'm absolutely, if anything's come up, that'd be fine. Okay, right. I think. Okay, cool, done. Right.